Okay, hello. This is my first video tutorial for Visual Studio 2010. So to start with, I'm going to show you how simple it is to create a new Windows Forms project. Obviously this is the start screen that you see when you first load up the program, so you must have loaded Visual Studio 2010 first of all to see this. The first thing we're going to do is move our mouse over to New Project and select it, and that's then going to bring up a nice big menu. This menu will show us all the different options that we have. In this case we're looking at Visual C# because that's the programming language we're going to use. Because this is Visual Studio 2010, we have everything up to .NET Framework 4 available to us out of the box. It doesn't really matter which one you use, as long as the machine that you're going to run the program on has the same framework. As a standard, I would go with the .NET Framework 4 rather than any other version, because you can always change the version at a later date. So in this case we're going to create a Windows Forms application. This is the standard Windows program, and I'm just going to give my name on this one Test Program. Notice I changed the name here where I'm highlighting with my cursor. The solution name changes as well. It may be that we want to change the solution, which can contain several different programs in it, to another name. You must do that after you've changed the name, otherwise the solution name will automatically change to what we've set the name to be. So in this case I'm going to change the names for Basic Programming for Screen Recording, and the name of my program is going to be Test Program. So I hit OK, and that's instantly going to now create a Windows Forms application for me to view. Now the first page that you see is a standard Windows form, which is a grey box with a title, which we can then use to drag objects onto, such as buttons and text boxes and various other items. Now the idea of this software recipe guide set is that we are going to go through some business style software which is going to use Windows Forms in the way that they are designed, and also into some games development which uses Windows Forms as well, but uses them in a completely different way. Now to give you a bit of an overview over the whole of this, what's called an IDE or Integrated Development Environment, Visual Studio starts by having a toolbox on this left hand side. If your toolbox is missing, on the View menu you can select what you want to show. For example, there is the toolbox. Another important screen is the Solution Explorer. Just highlighting my mouse over the button makes it appear. If I wanted to stay on the screen all the time, I just change... There's some problems there while it's screen recording at the same time. It doesn't like it. I'm going to select my Auto Hide button there, so that this makes the window actually stay on the screen at all times. This makes it much easier to be able to view both of these. If I want to hide my toolbox, I can cancel the auto hide, and again it appears as a button which I can slide into view. But it's harder to obviously click and drag items from the toolbox onto the form if it's not in view all the time. Again, Solution Explorer appears on the view if you've lost it, so you can show it there. There are other windows as well that you can load up, including a web browser, but we're not going to do that just at the moment. If I want to look at the actual code that makes up this form, we have here form1.cs, and I can view the code by right click to bring up the menu, left click to select the file. And this is actually the code, if you like, that we can write behind a form. Now we're going to start with a really basic program. So another important window that we're going to bring up now is the Properties window. So I clicked right click on the menu there, click Properties to bring up the window, and again I can turn off the auto hide. So there is my Properties window. For now I'm going to hide Solution Explorer so it makes it clearer and easier to read on this screen. Now what we have here are all the different items that the form is made up of, from its name that you refer to it in the code, to the writing or text that appears at the top. So I'm going to start with the standard program that we always make as programmers by double clicking where it says text and retyping it as Hello World. Now I want my window to appear in the centre of the screen when I run this program, so that's exactly what I'm going to do there, and change from the drop down list to centre screen. Everything else I want to keep as it is at the moment. I'm now going to go across this toolbox where I can just click my left mouse button and drag on a button. Now this button again has a name, various other properties. The text is what appears on the button there, and you have other options as well that you might want to use. Change the font. You could make it from being a normal button like this as a pop-up button, which is used quite a lot on menus. However you want to make it appear. Flat looks just a bit more solid. Standard obviously is the one that's there, and system is the same as standard as it stands at the moment on Windows. So this button I'm going to write visible. So that's what it's going to say on the button. I'm going to change its name from button 1 to BN visible. Next thing I'm going to drag on is something called a label, which is just a piece of writing I want to put on the screen. I'm going to call this LB hello, and I go down my list and I'm going to change the text on this to hello world. Now there's a property here called visible. If I set this to false, when I run my program, that label will no longer appear. So I'm going to try that now. So let's click this little play button to run our program in what's called debug mode, so it will tell us if there are any errors. There shouldn't be yet because we've not typed any code in. And there's the program running. So here we go. You can see this is the program window here, and there's no label showing because it's been set to visible equals false. Now the job of this button is going to be to make that text appear. So we're going to double click on that button to take us into our code, and it's automatically created what's called an event. In this case, this event will run every time that button is clicked. This little piece of code surrounded by these curly brackets will run every time we click that button, or every time the user clicks that button. Now the clever thing about Visual Studio is obviously it tries to fill things in for you, if anyone's used this before. So I can start by typing LB, hit enter on the keyboard, and it fills in the rest of the text for me. I can do the same for visible and set it to equal true with just a few clicks of the keyboard and a few clicks of enter. So now what should happen is that the visibility of LB hello will be changed to true when I click the button, which should make it appear on the screen. Visible, and it appears. Simple as that. Now I could do this a bit more complicated. Using logic, I can use an exclamation mark to mean not, which means that I can set the visibility of this control to whatever the visibility currently is, but the reverse, not. This means if lbhello.visible equals false, the opposite of false is true, so lbvisible will be true. If it's already visible, this is true, that will make it equal to false, so it will set it to false and hide it. This means with every click of the button it will either show or hide the label. It will alternate between the two. So we'll try that. Click, 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 click. There we go, simple as that, and we've created our first program.